Just a bit of the buzz inside Jurassic Park, outside Scotiabank Arena, seeing the celebrations, Toronto Raptors inside the NBA Finals. So we had to bring on former owner of the Vancouver Grizzlies, Arthur Griffiths, joining us. What is this like for you seeing, 24 years later, what the Toronto Raptors have done in Canada? Not only have they become Canada's team, but just seeing the energy behind the sport.
Well, I mean, we always thought and believed that it would be a great spectator sport and fan-based sport in this country. It's not just because the NBA, it's always been here and it's always been a part of our community and both. So the idea that this has now evolved to an NBA final team from Canada is, as someone said the other day, a little bittersweet. Certainly it'll have to be the Grizzlies, but the Raptors will have to do, and I'm really excited for them and, frankly, for basketball in Canada.
How hard is it? I mean, you were there, the ground roots of Raptors, Grizzlies coming into the NBA mid-'90s. How hard is it to get to this point, to build a contender, to be in the NBA Finals, and potentially win a championship? How many components do you have to consider?
Well, I always found basketball, and I do find basketball to be clearly a team sport, but at the end of the day, one player often can make the difference, and we see that time and time again. So you need to be that one player away potentially sometimes, and if you do, you can build the championships. You got Curry, LeBron James as recent examples, of course Michael Jordan in the past, and never to take away from the rest of the team, but I think that would have been the difference in a lot of cases and franchises, and it's difficult because there's not 10 teams, there's 30 plus, so we got to recognize it's an uphill battle for sure all the way.
Early ownership days, when we see some of these highlights of the team, we see Kawhi Leonard, the free agent as of July 1st. Hopefully he stays with the Raptors. But how hard was it for you with the Vancouver Grizzlies to bring top-tier talent, to sell them on Vancouver and say we could build something for the future?
Well, we had twofold issues. First and foremost, we couldn't draft the best player for 5 years. That was a condition in our expansion agreement. So even if we had drafted the best player in the draft or available to, we couldn't. So attracting the best talent usually starts with the draft. That didn't happen. The second issue was that we were unknown, completely unknown to a lot of college ball players in the United States. So it was an uphill battle. Once they got here, and I mean that, once they got here, they did love this city. I think of Byron Scott and a lot of these guys. They really did love this place, and some of them come back. They just don't tell people. They just come home, so to speak, for us and visit. And it's unfortunate that we got a couple of players that I say turn their back on us, but that's
Steve Francis.
Yeah, Steve Francis, without saying a name.
Still sore, yeah, still sore.
But I know, for example, Big Country loved it here. He loved it here, and he was in his wife and April and the family and the kids. They call this somewhat home.
Finding Big Country is a great film that kind of documents the history of the Vancouver Grizzlies. I mean, when we see this momentum, and I'm a huge basketball fan, I've supported the Raptors, I remember being at the first home game where Chris King scored that overtime buzzer, and we were 2-0, everyone saying, the Grizzlies are going to do something special, and it was a tough go. But for those fans in this era that have that passion and enthusiasm to say, let's bring the NBA back to Vancouver, how complicated is that? How realistic is that?
Well, the complications are, first and foremost, would be the arena, in the sense that you need to find the right relationship to the arena, and that because the NBA won't really entertain anybody with deep pockets, if you will, to attract a franchise without that nailed down. Secondly,
Rogers Arena could be a great fit, though.
It would fit. It would fit. So you have to put that in place before you even talk about who's going to put what in place. So then the other issue is, of course, the money. I mean, the money is, in my time, it was $125 million US.
For a franchise.
For an expansion franchise, I would say, by all information that I'm getting, including from the league, we're talking about $2 billion expansion franchise and or existing franchise. So that's a big ticket item, but it's a wholly different economic proposition than it was in the 1990s.
How important is this Raptors run for basketball in Canada, from your take of what you've seen?
Well, it's huge. It definitely demonstrates to me that the sport is very much alive and well. As a league, the NBA has run exceptionally well, and that's the part that I think, as a businessman, that's what people will look at first if you're putting up that kind of money. So that's solid. And then the second part is the fan base. It was always here. It's such a misnomer that it wasn't successful as a fan sport in the arena. And now I think you can see it transcends every city in this country, never mind Toronto or Vancouver.
You see a franchise NBA side in Vancouver in the next 5 years?
I do. I think that there's a good shot at it. Whether I would hope it would be an existing franchise, because I think that would be restitution from the NBA's perspective, bring one back, so to speak. If it's expansion, then it's a different model, as we know, because it's a dance and it's a process, and there's others that'll be competing. But I think if the ownership group was to be gathered here, they could make a compelling argument to the NBA to bring a team back.
Would you get back in the game?
I'd definitely be part of it, but I'm not sure I'd want to be the one that would be writing any checks at this stage because, frankly, been there, done that.
Okay. Arthur Griffiths has spoken. Game 3, by the way, NBA Finals. You can watch it right here on City TV. Pre-game show starts at 5:30, tip-off just after 6 p.m. Arthur, appreciate you coming by.
Thanks, Chris.
I like that prediction. 5 years from now. Let's bring it back. We love our basketball here on the West Coast. We'll take a break. Watch